Welcome back to the Making the Madness YouTube channel. Sean back again, and this time we have another roster breakdown to go through today, and it's a pretty good one. I held a Twitter poll for about an hour, and it was between Murray State, Colorado State, St. Bonaventure, and Nevada, and the winner, as you can tell if you're clicking on this video, ended up being the Wolfpack of Nevada. So let's get into the roster here. Obviously, last year it was a pretty young team that was voted in the middle of the pack of the Mountain West to enter the season. I think I had them fifth, and they're pretty good. They held tight against San Diego State twice. Three times, I guess, if you count the Mountain West tournament game. They lost by less than double digits all three times. Trey Pulliam hit a game winner in one of them. They beat Boise State twice. So they were able to hang around with teams. They beat Colorado State on a Grant Sherfield buzzer beater. This is a team that is definitely capable of winning NCAA tournament games next season. I have them ranked 10th or 11th right now. I'm going to revise my list very soon, and that'll be on makingthemadness.com. So without further ado, let's get into the roster. The returnees, you have obviously Grant Sherfield, who averaged 18 points a game last season, 3 rebounds per game, 6 assists per game. Doesn't sound like he's in a testy NBA waters as of now. I'm sure he would have already done that. But, I suspect him to return. He was fantastic in his first year at Nevada as a transfer from Wichita State. And this is a guy that was originally committed to UCLA to play for Steve Alford, so a relationship he built in the past helped him in his new journey at Nevada, bring one of the best guards in the country to play for him, and he really showed why he was that good this season. He's a guy that you want the ball in his hands late in games. He can hit game winners. He's really good at facilitating, and he can really score for himself. He's a really good shooter, and he showed out this season. He's definitely going to enter next season as the preseason conference player of the year, with Isaiah Stevens and David Roddy from Colorado State kind of being in that same conversation. Maybe Matt Bradley from San Diego State kind of being in the mix too. But Sherfield, I'm going to have him as an All-American next season because he is just so good. You won't find many better guards in the country. If you told me to name 5 better pure point guards in the country, I can't name 5 better ones. That's how good he was last year and how good I expect him to be this season. He really guided them to a lot of wins last season. Desmond Cambridge is coming back, 16.3 points per game, but the biggest key with him is efficiency. On any given night, he can drop 30, but he can also take 20 shots and drop 10 points. That's kind of what he was at Brown during his time in the Ivy. But, at this level, you prefer it's more consistent. And I think with how talented this team is, he will inevitably get a little more consistent. Shot 90% from the foul line, which is very encouraging. On 62 of 69, he shot 34.8% from deep, a career high at that from outside, and 40.9 field goal percentage, which was also a career high. You would certainly like that to be a little higher. Takes a ton of threes, almost 200 last season. That is mainly what he does, and expect him to continue to take many threes next season. He's going to be a major factor for the Wolfpack if they're able to go as far as I imagine they can. And at the wing spot, I have Addison Patterson, a transfer from Oregon, who did not play this season because he transferred right before the season started, so he was never going to get eligible. And he decided to transfer pretty surprisingly, I'd say. I thought he's going to play a pretty significant role for Oregon, even though it did get diminished a little bit when LJ Figueroa transferred there, so that definitely kind of changed things. But this is a guy that was a 42nd ranked recruit in the class of 2019. He reclassified. He was a 4th ranked shooting guard in the class. He's really athletic. He's a good defender. I think his jump shot when watching him at Oregon, I think he shot about 40% if my memory served me correctly, but on a low sample size. And the jumper just doesn't look super fluid. He doesn't look overly comfortable, kind of, a weird shot. So if they can fall consistently, that's huge. But I think that his defensive intensity and the ability to drive to the basket using his high-level athleticism is really what's going to set him apart at this level. And he doesn't have to be the guy. He can be the 3rd guy or the 4th guy for Nevada next season. That definitely makes him that much more dangerous for the Wolfpack. Trey Coleman is likely to start at the 4 spot. Was a freshman last season, shot 36% from deep. Good stretch 4. He's going to play that role perfectly. I think he's going to have a bit of a bigger role with Zane Meeks transferring out to San Francisco. So I think he's definitely going to have a big role next season if Nevada is able to, do what I think they can do. I think they're a team that can win not one, but 2 or 3 NCAA tournament games next season. I think this could be one of Nevada's better teams, ever. I mean, I'm not just saying that as an exaggeration for the video. I've said this for a while, that I think this team is legitimately, running the NCAA tournament Elite Eight good. I think it's better than the team with the Martin twins and Jordan Caroline from a few years back. I think this team is more well-rounded. And with a guy like Grant Sherfield, he can kind of guide you there. And then another big addition is Will Baker, former top 20 recruit, 5-star guy. He's a very talented player for numerous reasons, because he's 7 foot, 200 and about 30 pounds. He's a big dude. He really struggled in his lone season. He played at Texas in 2019-20. He only played about 8 minutes a game in 20 games and wasn't very good, to be honest. He struggled on the defensive end and was really bad on offense. But he sat out this year when he transferred to Nevada. I think that there's certainly a lot of upside there, and he was a 5-star guy for a reason. That doesn't happen on accident. He's clearly talented, and I think he's going to show why he's that talented very soon next season for Nevada, and it's not a sure thing that he'll start. I have him pegged as a starter right now, but we could certainly see it be Warren Washington end up starting, who had a pretty good season. I mean, I don't think Nevada fans expected him to emerge the way he did after sitting out last year, transferring from Oregon State. Averaged 10 points a game and 5 rebounds a game. He was the 3rd highest scorer on the team. He had a few big games. He had 19 against San Diego State, 21 against Wyoming. So I think he can continue that upward trajectory, and I think he will be a very nice tandem with Will Baker. Whichever one starts, I think Baker's going to emerge as a guy, but Washington probably enters, training camp, or however you want to call that, as the guy because of what he did last season. And off the bench, I think the bench is certainly solid. Daniel Foster showed flashes last season, so I'm curious to see what he's able to do next year, but will he get buried on the depth chart with Addison Patterson coming in? That's something to watch. Trey Wade comes in from Wichita State, a very versatile defender, can defend 1 through 3 really well, even some 4 if you need him to. He's not the best scorer. He can shoot the ball a little bit. Not a great scorer, but you have him for defense, and that's going to pay dividends when you play some of the higher scoring teams in the conference like Colorado State. You want Trey Wade defending Isaiah Stevens. That's kind of what you want happening there, because he's going to be the best defender on the floor more often than not. KJ Himes is set to return right now. He has not transferred, and he's, was always a pretty highly touted guy when it came down to it. He was kind of, buried on the depth chart a little bit last season behind Warren Washington. He didn't get that opportunity to start like I thought he would, but I think he's definitely in for a pretty solid role next season if he emerges. I mean, the talent is obviously there. He's athletic, and he showed some shooting ability last season, so I'm curious to see. It sounds like he's staying for now, so if he stays, I'm curious to see what kind of role he can play, if he can carve out a role, find his spot, because with Will Baker and Warren Washington there, it could be tough to find minutes if he doesn't play well early on. So I certainly think that having a guy like Himes, though, that's very good for your depth, because if Washington or Baker unfortunately gets injured, you still have a guy that's proven he can play at this level. He hasn't always been great, but he's always produced at a solid level. And I mentioned earlier, you lose Zane Meeks. That's a tough loss. He's a good stretch forward, but Trey Coleman then steps in and plays a bigger role. But you also lose Kane Milling to UC Davis, and you lose Robbie Robinson. Those two were certainly expected. You add Jalen Weaver and Nick Davidson, two incoming freshmen. Davidson might redshirt just based on how the roster looks. 6'10" big man, kind of skinny. He's probably going to redshirt if I had to guess. Jalen Weaver, he's a guard. He could play at some point. He's a 2-star recruit. Alim Husainovich, he played a little bit this season. I think Nevada fans were kind of banging the drum for him to play more, but we'll see what ends up happening there if he plays this season or not. Very much. DeAndre Henry, he's a guy that could definitely carve out a role at the 4 spot if Trey Coleman struggles or something like that. They're built very similarly. I think Coleman's a better player overall, but I think Henry could certainly play some minutes if they need him to. So I'm definitely curious to see what pans out there. But the Wolfpack will enter next season as the top-ranked team in the Mountain West. In my opinion, will be them or Colorado State, and it's pretty clear the top 2. You can put San Diego State 3, and I think that's certainly acceptable. But the Wolfpack are, you know what wins you games in March? Depth, experience, and guard play. Nevada has all those things. Their depth is solid for sure, especially in the front court. Guard play, they have the best guards in the Mountain West, I would say. And then experience. Grant Sherfield's going to be a junior. You look at Desmond Cambridge, he's going to be a redshirt senior. Addison Patterson's going to be a redshirt sophomore, as is Will Baker. KJ Himes is going to be a redshirt junior. Warren Washington's going to be a redshirt junior. DeAndre Henry and Trey Coleman are going to be sophomores, as is Daniel Foster, and then you have 2 freshmen coming in. This is a very experienced team with a lot of talent on the roster, so I'm going to have them continue. I'm going to continue to rank them top 15 at worst throughout the season, unless Grant Sherfield leaves or something. But assuming that doesn't happen, the Wolfpack will be a very dangerous team next season, and I can't wait to talk about them some more. So thanks for checking out the video. Like and subscribe. Until next time, have a good day.